Hello, folks. We're moving now into Mod 7, and it has to do with China's exchange rate regime. And we wanted to give you a little bit of additional material. So here's a roadmap of that additional material. So what we're basically asking you to do is write a 500-word report that analyzes China's monetary policy, which includes its exchange rate between 1995 and 2005. Okay? And we'll be asking you to focus on capital control. So here's just a picture of the period you can see between 95 roughly and 2005, and this is the exchange rate in yuan per dollar. This comes from my book, and you can see that during that time it was nearly fixed. I want to remind you, if we do things in yuan per dollar, okay, it's actually when the exchange rate goes up, we're less valuable. Okay, that's not always the way that Mankiw does it. He does it the other way around. It makes no difference for the economics. Okay? You can either do it yuan per dollar or dollar per yuan. Okay, but anyway, this is probably the more um, familiar way that people talk about the yuan. Anyway, this was the period of the fixed exchange rate. So yes, we have a few questions here talking about what we call the impossible Trinity triangle. We'll be talking about that. The objectives: low inflation, providing monetary policy independence, promoting competitiveness, and then of course there's the issue of foreign reserves. Okay, so we thought you'd appreciate a little bit of extra material in going through that. So here's the plan in the coming videos. First of all, we're going to give a short video on the pros and cons, sort of the pluses and minuses of fixed and flexible exchange rates. And then if you need some extra reading, of course, you go back to Mankiw. He has a very nice discussion of this, page 389 and 390. Then capital controls and the possible and the impossible trinity. We're going to discuss that. We're probably going to be going into it a little bit more detail than Mankiw. Then financing a net export or current account deficit, the difference between reserves and non-reserves. I think that this is a part where it might not be so obvious in Mankiw. I can refer you to my book, the first section of chapter 15. And I do want to assure you that the quiz mainly comes from Mankiw. So if there's stuff in my book that I'm recommending because it's useful for the memo assignment, not necessary for the quiz. So yes, then we're going to ask about the role of reserves in fixing the exchange rate. It's something that you need to know. And then finally getting back to the link between net exports and also capital flows and the money supply. And Mankiw has a discussion of that. He uses an ISLM model, and I think that's okay. But there's other ways that you might look at it too. So once again, I'm asking you to look at my book because I think it'll be useful for the material. And then, yes, my book is a little bit more technical, but once again, we're going to try and emphasize the non-technical, the intuition. There's one more thing, is that when you read my book, Mankiw refers to net capital inflows and outflows. That's the corresponding money that helps finance a trade balance deficit. I mean, in some sense, he is falling into a trap that many people fall into, and then he's using what is an obsolete terminology, because these days, for the past 20 years, really 30 years almost, we've been referring to that as the financial account, or the net financing, or the net financial flows, and we'll be talking a little bit about that more. It's really the same thing. So when we're talking about a country that has a trade deficit, it needs financing or net capital inflows of $100. Okay, I actually find the financing terminology to be a little bit more illuminating, because it's kind of like your house. If you are spending in a given month more than you're earning, you need to finance that extra spending, and we've been talking about it that way, especially the IMF, since the late 1990s. So anyway, that's it for this little introductory memo, the video. Let's jump into the material. Thank you.